Court documents show that police have obtained security video footage of a man dragging a green bin, a compost bin, down Agricola Street and then down towards the McDonald Bridge. When he returns on this video footage, he doesn't have the green bin. Police say they recovered a green bin down near the McDonald Bridge, and Catherine Campbell's body was about 150 meters away from that. Now, the other most pressing part of this information that we found was also an account of a conversation that police had with Garnier. One officer says he was told by a second officer that Garnier said that he punched Campbell repeatedly in the face and that he strangled her with her own hands.
September 11th, 2015, 3:47 a.m. Security cameras across downtown Halifax capture something unusual. A man, alone, pushing a large green compost bin through the streets. For the next 2 hours, he walks, block after block, nearly 4 miles, in the darkness. 5 days later, a maintenance worker finds that same bin, tucked beneath the McDonald Bridge. Inside, the body of 36-year-old Catherine Campbell, a police officer. She had been strangled to death, wrapped in her own bedsheet, and hidden away like garbage. But here's what made this case truly chilling. The man who walked those 4 miles in the dark was someone Catherine had willingly brought into her home just hours before she died, someone she thought she could trust. Before we begin, if you're interested in well-researched true crime cases told with respect and accuracy, please consider subscribing. It helps us continue bringing you these stories. Catherine Campbell was born in 1979 in Nova Scotia, Canada. From an early age, she was known for her warmth, her sense of humor, and her dedication to helping others. In 2005, she achieved her dream. She became a police officer with the Truro Police Service, a small town about 60 miles north of Halifax. Her colleagues described her as compassionate, professional, and fiercely loyal. She worked in community policing. She knew the people she served by name. She cared, but Catherine had another side to her life. On her days off, she would drive to Halifax, a larger city with a vibrant nightlife. She had an apartment there, a place to unwind, to be herself outside the uniform. Catherine was single, independent, social. She enjoyed going out, meeting people, having a few drinks after a long week. There was nothing unusual about that. But on the night of September 10th, 2015, Catherine made a decision that would cost her everything. What happened that night wouldn't make sense for days, and when it finally did, it would reveal a betrayal no one saw coming. September 10th, 2015 was a Thursday. Catherine had the next day off. That evening, she went to a popular downtown spot called the Ale House, a bar she'd been to many times before. She arrived around 9 p.m., alone. But that wasn't unusual for her. Catherine was confident, outgoing. She could strike up a conversation with anyone. And that night, she did. His name was Christopher Garnier. He was 27 years old, a local. He worked in his family's business. And according to witnesses, Catherine and Christopher hit it off. They were seen talking, standing close. At one point, they embraced, kissing briefly as they drank together. To everyone around them, nothing seemed out of place. By all accounts, it looked like a normal night. Just two people enjoying each other's company, unaware of what was about to happen next. Around 2 a.m., the bar closed. Surveillance footage shows Catherine and Christopher leaving together. They walked back to her apartment, just a few blocks away. Catherine Campbell was never seen alive again. For nearly a week, no one knew where Catherine was. Her family, her colleagues, her friends, all they knew was that she had vanished. But someone knew exactly where she was and what he had done. When Catherine didn't show up for work on Friday, September 11th, her colleagues grew concerned. It wasn't like her. Calls to her phone went unanswered. By Saturday, a missing person investigation was launched. But this wasn't just any missing person case. Catherine was a police officer, one of their own. Investigators began retracing her steps. They checked her apartment. Nothing appeared disturbed. They reviewed her phone records. Her last known location pinged near her building. They pulled surveillance footage from the ale house. And that's when they saw him. Christopher Garnier, the last person seen with Catherine Campbell. Police brought him in for questioning, and his story seemed believable. Garnier told investigators that yes, he had gone home with Catherine that night. They had been drinking. They spent time together. But he claimed that in the early morning hours, they got into an argument. He said Catherine asked him to leave. So he did. He walked out, went home, and that was the last time he saw her. Investigators had no evidence to hold him, so they let him go. But they kept watching, because something didn't feel right. 3 days later, everything changed. A discovery was made, and Christopher Garnier's story began to fall apart. September 16th, 2015. A maintenance worker was doing a routine check near the McDonald Bridge when he noticed a large green compost bin tucked under the overpass. It didn't belong there. He opened it. Inside was a body, wrapped in a bedsheet, decomposing. Investigators were called immediately. Dental records confirmed what they feared. It was Catherine Campbell. The news hit the community like a shockwave. A beloved police officer, murdered, discarded like trash. But now, investigators had evidence, and they had a suspect. Surveillance footage from the days following Catherine's death told a disturbing story. On September 11th, hours after Catherine was last seen alive, Christopher Garnier was captured on camera, wheeling a large green compost bin from the area near Catherine's apartment, all the way to the McDonald Bridge. It took him over 2 hours. He walked nearly 4 miles, in the middle of the night, with Catherine's body inside, and then he dumped her. With the surveillance footage in hand, investigators moved quickly. On September 17th, Christopher Garnier was arrested and charged with second-degree murder and interfering with human remains. But investigators needed more than just video. They needed to know what happened inside that apartment. Forensic teams searched Catherine's apartment. They found traces of blood, signs of a struggle. And they found evidence that someone had tried to clean it up. But blood is difficult to hide. Even when you think you've wiped it away, it's still there. The medical examiner determined that Catherine had died from neck compression. She had been strangled. The prosecution's theory was clear. Christopher Garnier and Catherine Campbell had gone back to her apartment after the bar. At some point, something went wrong. Maybe she rejected him. Maybe she wanted him to leave. And instead of walking away, he killed her. Then, in a panic, he tried to cover it up. He wrapped her body, placed it in the compost bin, and in the dead of night, he walked for miles to dump her body where he thought no one would find it. But he was wrong. Christopher Garnier's trial began in 2017. The evidence against him was overwhelming. Forensic evidence, witness testimony, but Garnier's defense team argued that Catherine's death was not murder. They claimed it was an accident. They said that during a consensual encounter, Garnier accidentally caused Catherine's death during what they described as rough sex. The prosecution rejected this entirely. They argued that the force required to strangle someone to death is not accidental. That Garnier's actions afterward, the cover-up, the disposal of her body, showed consciousness of guilt. He knew what he had done, and he tried to get away with it. After days of testimony, the jury deliberated. On February 24th, 2017, they reached a verdict. Guilty. Christopher Garnier was convicted of second-degree murder. He was also convicted of interfering with human remains. For the way he disposed of Catherine's body, he was sentenced to life in prison with no chance of parole for 13.5 years. For Catherine's family, friends, and colleagues, it was a small measure of justice, but it could never bring her back. Catherine Campbell was a daughter, a sister, a friend, a protector of her community. She dedicated her life to helping others. And in a single night of violence, that life was stolen from her. Her name is now honored in memorials across Nova Scotia. Her legacy lives on in the people she served, and in the reminder that even those who protect us are not immune to the dangers of misplaced trust. This case was built on court records, police reports, and verified news coverage. If you found this video informative and respectful, please consider subscribing and sharing it with others who appreciate well-researched true crime content. Thank you for watching. And rest in peace, Catherine Campbell.